Aquaman, directed by James Wan, is the newest installment in the DC universe and follows Arthur Curry, the Aquaman, played by Jason Mamoa. Arthur is half Atlantean and half human, and he finds himself in the middle of a conflict. His brother Orm is vowing to bring a war to the surface world once he becomes king, and it's Arthur's job as an Atlantean with royal blood to challenge his half-brother Orm and put a stop to his plans that involve going to war with humanity. Arthur continually finds himself torn between the surface world and Atlantis, and he struggles to find his place in this conflict. However, he has to do so quickly because if not, everything and everyone he loves on the surface could be in some serious danger. Alright, so I'm definitely late on this one, no doubt about it, but I hope you guys will forgive me. I was actually on vacation, and now that I'm back, I'm excited for my first review to be Aquaman. Very exciting stuff. I never went into Aquaman expecting it to be good, honestly. The current DCEU has a track record of disappointing me and getting my hopes up, and I try not to get them up too much with the recent crop of films. Justice League was alright, but gets worse as time passes. Suicide Squad was a major dud for me, and even Batman v Superman was sort of whatever, honestly. I did really like Wonder Woman, though. I thought that was definitely a step in the right direction for the DCEU. And I'm happy to report so is Aquaman. I really liked this movie. And I think this may just be the biggest surprise of the year thus far for me because I was continually entertained and continually impressed with what James Wan and his crew were able to accomplish with this film. This is my favorite DCEU film thus far. And I honestly think if I had to rank it within the MCU, I'd rank it pretty favorably, somewhere in the middle probably. Aquaman reminded me a lot of Thor 1, which is a film that most don't especially love, but one that I definitely do. This is an origin story that should have come before Justice League, but one that still works if you view it in isolation. I like watching Jason Mamoa spin on the character. He adds a lot of personality, a lot of awkward charm, and a charisma that's usually offbeat but works because it's consistent and unique. As for the Thor 1 comparison, that's mostly because of the main conflict revolving around a brother's quarrel for the throne, that is. Each brother has a different lens that they view the world through, and they're at odds with each other because they have different approaches to solving conflicts with the outside world. Everyone above water, basically. I like the family drama aspect and how it's executed here. It's certainly not anything you haven't seen shades of before, but I found the story and the characters to be consistently compelling. It's funny though because the trailers never impressed me with virtually in any way, honestly. I always felt this movie would suck and I thought it would just be another DC film that failed to live up to expectations. One of the biggest surprises though had to be the action and the visuals. I was pretty enthralled anytime any action was happening because I love how the scenes were choreographed and how the visuals look. It just looks very cool, especially underwater. Aquaman does a really great job of introducing the viewer to a world we haven't seen anything like before. Atlantis is sort of like Wakanda, I guess, but the fact that it's underwater adds a whole nother element to it. The technology, the weaponry, the structures, how the characters move and talk underwater, it all is incredibly immersive and fun. I think as far as world building goes, Aquaman does a damn good job at it. It's cool to look at and it's easy to get lost in the underwater spectacle. I actually liked all of the supporting performances as well. Aquaman primarily spends a lot of the film with a character named Mira, played by Amber Heard, and I really like watching her abilities and personality whenever it was allowed the chance to shine. Willem Dafoe's in this movie, Dolph Lundgren's in this movie. There's a lot of characters that fit in super well in the underwater world of Atlantis, and they all have important roles to play in deciding its future. I think the characters and performances that surround Aquaman as a hero do a great deal for the overall emotional investment you end up having in the film. It's always nice to have a strong cast of characters for the audience to latch onto, and this film definitely has that. But yeah, Aquaman is very exciting, and I found myself really locked into the action anytime it happened. There's certainly a lot of explosions, and it's certainly a spectacle like any superhero film tends to be, but it's unique because of the environment in which it takes place. This type of war isn't something you see with a typical superhero film. The underwater theatrics are specific to Aquaman, and the film plays to the strengths of the character and his roots, and also to the strengths of the actor in Jason Mamoa. It all looks really cool and it's all satisfying to say the least. That said, there are a few issues I have with the film. For one, I think it tends to get a bit cheesy at times. Some of the dialogue feels heavy-handed and it tries to play to the family-friendly crowd by forcing some humor into scenes that may or may not call for it. Also, I didn't always love the music choices. I think the score is awesome overall and it really adds an epic feel to the film, but there are some other musical decisions or choices that feel less than satisfying and sort of cap on that immersion. There's one scene where a Pitbull song comes on and it almost feels like a music video more so than it does a superhero film. But I really enjoyed Aquaman as a whole, and I was pleasantly surprised in almost every way with it. As for the pros/cons, for the pros, I think Aquaman has a charismatic and offbeat hero with a lot to offer, lots of great supporting characters to round out the film, great action and visuals, and great world building. As for the cons, I think it gets a bit cheesy for my taste at times, and the music choices aren't always spot on. I'm gonna give Aquaman a 9 out of 10, and definitely recommend you check this one out in theaters if you like superhero movies. This one is another positive step for DC. So did you guys see Aquaman yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite DC film. We're not counting the Dark Knight trilogy though, because it's not really fair, so we're just gonna count the current DCEU movies. So for me, with that in mind, it's Aquaman. Also, let me know how you think the quality of this movie compares to the MCU movies. That should be an interesting discussion. Either way, this is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next video.